Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name is Ben.
And I'm Steve.
How's it going, Steve?
It's going well, Ben.
Good. Glad to hear it. New movie out tonight, or out this weekend, Mickey 17, finally, after many, many delays. That will be our main topic. We each got a couple of things, but as always, let's start with a roll.
So,
Two?
What is happening?
Steve.
So,
if I get a 20, that'll be
that's a
three in a row. That'll be a turkey.
The Michael Jordan of dice rolling.
Okay, here we go.
Pressure. 9. Ooh, low week.
Okay, all right.
It helped my average, though.
Well, let's get started on a few things. So we had another death. His name is George Lowe. Do you know who that is?
The name is familiar.
He did the voice of Space Ghost.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was only 66. He didn't really... he had stuff on his IMDb, but it was like all Space Ghost. Like, that was his thing. And you just mentioned it like last week about talking about things people, don't watch anymore. Or like those early days of Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
So, R.I.P. Space Ghost. Yeah, you had a great voice. And then as an update for last week's deaths, we kind of know what happened to Gene Hackman.
That shit is a bummer.
Yeah, so apparently his wife had hantavirus, which is like from rats, and she died and like was in the bathroom, door closed, died. Gene Hackman had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, I believe, and he wasn't taking care of himself. He was 95 years old, and so he didn't know what to do, if he even knew what was going on, and was just kind of doing his thing, and then went to bed and died. And I think in his confusion, he had closed the door on a dog, and the dog starved to death. It's
a series of unfortunate events that led to tragedy.
Terrible way to go. I feel bad for everyone, If only the door was open and he was able to maybe see her, or if he went first, I don't know. It's just sad state of things. But.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff about like their children, just like, how can you not like check in with your parents for a week? It's like, people don't check in with their parents all the time because
months. Yeah.
It's like, don't blame the kids because of this awful, sad thing that had nothing to do with them. It's like, but if they called, they could have saw that something was wrong. It's just like, yeah, but like if you call once a week, it's a very normal thing. And you're like, you check in because you don't want to like. Some people don't pester their parents every day, and or your parents don't pester you because you both have lives to live.
Yeah.
A week is not that long. If it was like a month before they found the bodies, it's like, yeah, someone should have checked in on them. But
like they could have called and said, "Oh, well, say hi to Dad for me. I know he doesn't know who I am when I'm on the phone." Okay, thanks, honey. Hung up the phone, went to the bathroom, and died. You don't know their relationship and their schedule, so let's leave the kids out of this. Unless the kids were like throwing rats at their mom and hoping that this would cause this chain of events. Let's leave them alone.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I was gonna say something. But now I forgot.
Yeah, profound. So I rolled higher, so I'm gonna go first.
Okay, great. You have more stuff anyway.
I watched a movie that I think you should check out. It's on Amazon Prime and Tubi, I believe.
Okay.
It's called The King Tide. Don't be fooled by the movie poster. It's like a girl's face, and there's all these bees coming out of her mouth or on her mouth. It looks like it's supposed to be a horror movie. It's not. I only watched this because, big fan of Red Letter Media, and they like to do these little spotlights on things of like the Kid Detective, movies that they just kind of found randomly and really enjoyed. And they have pretty good taste. So I was like, fuck it. If they like it, I'll watch it. And it's actually really pretty good. So, story. It's in Nova Scotia. It's a small island. And this young couple, they just lost their baby through a miscarriage.
So is this a foreign language film, like subtitles?
Nope, it's in English.
Okay.
And so yeah, they lost their child, and things aren't great for them. And they find a capsized boat on the beach. And
does the boat have a name called the King's Tide?
No, the King's Tide is the actual tide itself.
Oh,
it's like a specific day.
Okay.
It doesn't really factor in too much, except they found this boat on the King's Tide.
It's a cool name.
Anyway. It is. And there's crying coming from the inside. There's a baby. And so the guy goes under, saves the kid, cuts himself in the process, and when he comes out, he sees his wound heal in front of him. Mm-hmm. And they realize this baby's got magic healing powers. You don't even have to touch the kid, you just have to be around the kid, and we'll heal you of everything. So skip forward about 10 years, the whole town has like shut themselves off from the outside world. They don't let anybody in, nobody leaves. They're self-sufficient because they got to protect this miracle kid. And it sounds like, they're doing a good thing because this kid gets out, the government's going to take him and do all sorts of experiments and they'll be a terrible life. But they're actually just incredibly greedy. And their entire life is around this child. Every day people line up just to say praise to Lila. I think that's her name. Lila? Isla. And she's a nice little girl, just likes to read stories to people. People will drink and then come over because they have a hangover, and she heals them right up. People bare knuckle fight just for fun because they know they go to Isla, they're not going to have any sort of issues.
Sorry. No, the kids that find, are they the ones that raise her, or does just the town raise her?
The couple that had the miscarriage, mm-hmm. The town voted him to be mayor, or I guess he was already mayor.
Okay.
And then they said, well, because you lost your kid, it only makes sense for you guys to raise this kid. But that's their thing, is like, Layla's all of ours. So when things happen later and they go, we maybe need to take her off the island, like, nah, she needs to stay here and cure our hangovers. And they don't really think of, they frame it as it's good for Isla, but it's really just good for them. Because she also helps with like fishing. She just puts her hands in the water and then suddenly the fish just swim to her and they're able to just scoop them all up. So then when these younger kids, they're playing a little fuck around game of like eating these mushrooms or these berries, and it will kill you. But do it and you run to Isla's house and then she'll heal you. It's a little fun thing, because what else do you do on this island, I guess?
Sure.
And she's not there. So a kid dies and they try to get her back to the house because she was out on the boat with her dad, and she can't bring the kid back, from the dead. And it causes her to have this kind of trauma, and she can't heal people anymore. So everyone's getting a little worried, and the food's getting low because she can't go do her fish magic and stuff. But then they see her powers work while she's sleeping. Mm-hmm. So they start drugging her and then taking her out to the beach so she can do her fish powers. Just by being in the water, the fish will come. But if she's awake, it's not working. And then it's just them getting more and more greedy about what to do with her. And is this right? Like, you say you're doing these things for her, but you clearly are being completely selfish about it. So those are some broad things. And then there's stuff that happens in the end. But it was a pretty good movie with no actors that I was familiar with, a director I wasn't familiar with. And it's just like a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Sounds pretty sweet. Shout out to Nova Scotia, wherever that is.
Canada.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Steve, what do you got?
I read a comic book from my local library, Batman First Night.
They love using the night, white knight, dark knight.
I mean, that's when he works.
But is it?
It's spelled with a K.
It is with a K.
Yeah.
God, they're obsessed. People a little more creative.
Written by Dan Jurgens and art by Mike Perkins. So this is the story of Batman, and he's only been Batman for a couple weeks. And it's actually set, I think, around the time the first issue came out. I could be wrong about that, but it's pre-World War II.
Okay.
They're in the comic book. They're talking about like Hitler, and like that Hitler guy is doing a bunch of weird stuff over there. Like, mm-hmm. And everyone talks like that 1920s slang of just like, this kid's got a lot of moxie. Mm-hmm. See, yeah. Like it's very much that kind of dialogue.
Fucking Dick Tracy.
What's interesting about this book? The only recognizable characters, at least from what I recall, there could be like deep dive or like characters that are part of the lore, deep cuts that I just don't know. But the only like major characters that appear in this are Batman and Commissioner Gordon. Batman is at his mansion, and Alfred's not there. They don't even. I don't think they don't even mention Alfred. It's just Bruce Wayne lives in this huge mansion by himself, and his house is like a mess because he doesn't, clean up after himself because he doesn't care about his house. He's Batman. No major villains in it, but this is a story of him out, and he's like trying to save someone, and then like government officials are being killed and like, heads chopped off or just cut to pieces or stabbed a bunch of times, and like what's going on, like who is doing this, and Batman figures out who the next victim is, gets there, and it's like these two zombie looking kind of guys, very Cronenberg-esque kind of just they look like humans, but their heads are like huge and red and bumpy and stuff, just very disgusting looking, and they seem to be like super strong. And so anyway, story goes along. He meets a beautiful actress who's just like, your company pulled funding from our movie, and you need to bring the funding back. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll make a call. And gives the funding. Of course, she's this beautiful actress who they just have a thing. What's interesting about this comic is just how fast he seems to just trust people. From the get-go, he trusts Gordon. He's the only police officer he trusts, but Gordon doesn't know who he is. And he doesn't tell.
And he like pulls up the mask, Bruce Wayne.
And he doesn't tell. And he doesn't tell Gordon who he is. But in this universe, Gordon and Bruce Wayne are friends because after Bruce's parents die, like he kind of look after him and they're close and all that stuff. But he just assumes he's a billionaire playboy or millionaire playboy, whatever a lot of money is at this time. But he meets this girl, and then after like a date, she kind of like walks into his house and happens to see him like in his Batman gear, and he's like, ooh. And then it's like, yeah, I guess I'm Batman. And then they just like bang.
That's like the biggest aphrodisiac is finding out that some dude is Batman. You're gonna drop pants for him.
So they sleep together, and my favorite character in this is when Batman is fighting these guys and he barely gets away from them because they're stronger than he is. He's saved by this rabbi who like kind of lets him like recover in his synagogue, and just talks about like, what I think you're doing for this city is good, and and what's the deal. And he's just like, well, I've seen so much injustice in my life, like I want to spread justice throughout the city. And him being someone who like has recognized the camp and seen what people have done to the Jewish people, he's like, I get seeing injustice, and like, so they kind of become friends. And he's like, I think you're a troubled man. If you ever just want someone to talk to, like, you can talk to me. And so they hang out one time, and then the next time he's like, hey, by the way, I'm Batman. It's just like, Bruce, you're just like throwing your identity out there.
I would assume they would do this because it's going to bite him in the ass later, and he realizes,
nope.
Okay, and this is just the full story that you read?
As far as I know, this is the full story.
Okay.
So anyway, if you wanted an old school Batman story, like this is kind of would be your wheelhouse. Kind of fun seeing it not set in modern times where he has a bunch of like technology. He's not. I don't think he ever drives around the Batmobile, or if he does, I don't remember. So anyway, as you're reading this, there's like this guy who is gunning for, you would think that he's like the guy going for the top spot. There's some secret villain called the Voice, and he's like in charge of these criminals or whatever. And it turns out it's not the guy who like you would think is kind of take over Gotham. It's like a prison guard who works at Blackgate, who has, I guess, developed this like chemical that they've been executing people on the electric chair, but like not actually killing them, just bringing them to the like right before death, and then injecting this serum into them, and they become monster men.
Okay.
So they're not actually undead or anything. It's just a chemical agent, which I like. This whole comic, I thought, oh, this is where they say, oh, this is the precursor to Venom.
Yeah.
Or oh, this is where you're gonna introduce this character or this character. Like I'm waiting for like when are they gonna drop? This is what a nod to something. never happens.
Huh.
So it's
They
very
love just squeezing in characters whenever they can.
It's very self-contained. And then, he Batman develops a gas or something that if you shoot the zombie guys with gas, their like body just like deteriorates like it helps decay them faster because they're pretty much dead people.
Okay. And Batman doesn't care about killing these people because they're on death row anyways.
Well, he like gives the gas to Gordon and whatever. Batman doesn't kill anyone in this. Although
I just created the tools to kill them. I'm not actually doing it. La 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 la. I can't hear you.
At one point in the story, the actress goes over to his house and he has like a bunch of guns on his thing. It's like, those are my dad's guns. He was a hunter. And there's a moment in the comic where he kind of questions like, okay, these guys are stronger than me. And maybe I do need a gun to protect myself because I've only been at this a couple weeks and I've been stabbed and beaten and knocked unconscious and all this stuff. Like, I don't know how long I can do this and survive. And then he just ends up not using the gun. But it was okay. It was fun to see Batman in a different way than what I'm used to, because I'm used to like the more modern Batman stuff, or Batman the animated series, which was like kind of old timey, but still like, it never felt out of place. It was in that in between.
It was out of time, but not out of place.
Yeah, where this is like, Batman is not some super genius who's like, if you give me 20 minutes and a box of matches, like I can come up with a plan to defeat Darkseid or whatever. This is just like a normal dude dressed as a bat, just fighting crime and fighting like mostly normal people. So it was fun, but some of the dialogue I thought was a little campy and it moved really quick, which is fine. But I just wish they're, kind of developed more relationships with that actress character or with the rabbi. Like, I wanted to see their relationships build. It was kind of just like one moment they meet, the next moment they hang out, the next moment, oh, I'm Batman. And then it's just like, okay. And then the villain kind of comes out of nowhere, I thought. And he wasn't all that interesting because it was just like a dude. Which, I like Batman's characters who are just dudes, but usually they're like super genius and have cool themes and stuff. Where this is just like, I'm just a guy who wants to like kill all the government officials and take over Gotham for, I forget what reason.
Power.
Yeah. Probably. But if you like Batman, check it out. It took me like an hour to read, 45 minutes, whatever it was. And for the most part, I enjoyed it, I guess.
But do you think it would have been better if they integrated people or just had those little kind of nods where it is Venom, or it's like VNUM, it's like an acronym and it's just drawn on it. They don't really draw attention to it. It's just there.
Yeah, no. As fun as that kind of stuff is, I feel like it's so ingrained into like everything we make now. Like everything has to have nods to go like, isn't this cool? Or like, remember this? So I appreciated that this was, at least as far as I know, an original story with new characters other than Bruce and Gordon. I appreciated that, and like you didn't need to know anything about Batman to just jump into the story and kind of get it. I think it would have just served better if the comic was a little bit longer and then you just develop a little bit more character relationships with him and Gordon, him and the actress, him and the rabbi, like, and what it means to fight injustice at this time while Hitler's rising and the city's going through the depression, and while also being like the richest man in the city who's like dating a, famous actress or whatever, like all the complications that come with that, while also, trying to make sure Gordon is like keeping all these corrupt cops in line and all this, like, there's, stuff we've seen from Batman, but it's the stuff we like. And I just want character work in my Batman stories if you're, gonna do something like original and introduce these new people. Because I think Batman being friends with the rabbi is a super cool fucking idea, but they don't really do anything with it. So I don't know if there's more stories in this world. Maybe there's Second Night.
Yeah, maybe this is just early days, like the absolute Batman. Like, well, we were going to continue with this story, and this is just the absolute universe, and Marvel has their ultimate, so maybe they will just have this little offshoot of, 1940s Batman or 1930s Batman. And
yeah, I mean, I really like the artwork in it. I wish you saw. I never felt like you got enough of a look at Gotham per se. It never felt like you were really in the city, even though it was pretty much you were at Batman's house or at Blackgate Prison. Okay. So I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more. But if you like Batman, it's a perfectly enjoyable read.
Who don't like Batman? All right, cool. I saw a new release called The Rule of Jenny Penn. I had only heard like blurby sort of things, like, this movie's unhinged, it's unreal, it's crazy. So I was excited just to kind of like catch this under the radar movie about two old men in a retirement home kind of playing cat and mouse. Uh, and it's not as crazy as I was led to
It
believe,
usually never is.
but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It made you really, I mean, it's a lot of things that I've watched, but just don't get old. You know, don't do it. It seems like life in a retirement home is the absolute worst. So, what's his name? Barbosa? What did we say his name was?
Jeff.
Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush, God damn it.
See, I was right with Jeff. I was like, it's something like that.
That's funny.
But spelled with a G.
Yeah. So it's Jeffrey Rush is a judge. It's in New Zealand, and he had a stroke and fell over in the middle of his trial, and he can't take care of himself anymore. He's losing his ability in his right hand. He's got a little bit of sag in his face. He still has his wits about him, but he's having these moments where all of a sudden, you know, he's watching TV and then, oh, I'm in a different room. I don't remember these gaps in time. And he's determined to, I'm going to get better and I'm going to get the fuck out of here because this is awful. And it's not as bad as some retirement homes are portrayed. You know, there's not like dripping water out of pipes or
Ben Stiller's not beating you.
Yeah, the wallpaper isn't peeling off and you're seeing rats scurrying or anything. And like the staff is relatively friendly. Some of them you can tell they don't give a shit, where it's like they see someone wandering, like, you okay? You okay? Yeah, you're all right. And then they just move on. And then you see other ones who are taking the time to really scrub their butts. You see a couple of old man butts get scrubbed in this. So
that's hot.
So then there's another elderly man there. It's John Lithgow, putting on a pretty good New Zealand accent.
Yes.
He's...
That's all I got.
Yeah. Yes. He's a crazy person. He had worked in the old folks' home back in the day. He has a little puppet on his hand named Jenny Penn, and it's just like a baby doll, just a plastic baby doll without any of the stuff in its head, and it has no eyes, and it's always hits the light perfectly, so the whole head like glows and the eyes are piercing. Like really good shots of this creepy ass baby, and he's just kind of like king shit of this place, and he just fucks with everyone, and nobody really likes him, but they know, like, don't mess with him or he'll make you look crazy. Like, he goes into Jeffrey Rush's room and just like pours a jug of piss on him and then leaves. and everybody's scared, so they're like, yeah, no, I didn't see anybody in that room. Jeffrey Rush just pissed himself, and he's like, I didn't fucking piss myself. So he like goes up to people with this doll head and like, who rules? I'm like, Jenny Penn. And then he flips his hand over and puts the back of his wrist up to their face, and he's like, now lick Jenny's asshole. And then they have to like lick the back of the hand, and it's like, yeah, you know I'm in charge. And Jesus. So it's just about Jeffrey Rush kind of like trying to get one up on him, and they have a little back and forth. And I thought it was going to get like super violent or really disturbed or deranged, but you know, it's pretty mellow when it comes to that. But I think it was like I don't want to say a fun watch. This is kind of sad, but it was a good movie. I'm not upset that I saw it.
All right, yeah. Sweet. So there's no like supernatural element to it.
Nope.
It's just a like plot device for the Jenny Penn or whatever.
Yeah, he's gone nuts, and there is a thing where they show that Jeffrey Rush is not getting better, he's getting worse, and they give him a little pamphlet of like the positive effects of puppetry, and like maybe this would help you. So like he is going through the same thing, or at least he's pretending to be going through that, so the staff doesn't think he is with it as the others, but he does have like asthma.
So why does you know, you said it seems like some of the staff cares, some of them are just kind of like nonchalant about it, but most of them seem to like genuinely be good at their job. So what is it about this guy that they just let him get away with it? Or he
doesn't do it in front of anybody else. Like, they don't see that. Like, they see he may be annoying watching TV, he's laughing too hard.
Yeah.
But he is a kind of a model patient in front of them. But when the lights are off, because he also has a card that lets him into any room, and like something that he's kept since he worked there. So he's just in the middle of night going into people's rooms and fucking with them because, he knows all the secrets and the schedules of who's watching where, and he does kill some of the old people. Like there's this one old lady who every day she's like, yeah, Christmas is coming and my family's gonna be here to pick me up. I won't be here too long, so don't get used to seeing me. And he like
just been there for 10 years.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, your family's here, you see him outside? It's like in the middle of the night, and like, oh, I don't, and leads her out and just like lets her go wander out into the woods, and then she like falls in a puddle and drowns.
Jesus.
Yeah, so like he's willing to like let bad things happen to people. He just really doesn't give a fuck. So yeah, good stuff.
Good times.
Kind of wish I saw in the Lost Lands, just because I knew it would be more of a train wreck, but times didn't work out. Maybe I'll catch it before work or something.
Shucks.
All right, well, you got one more thing? I think I got one more thing.
Do I? I forget. I mean, the only thing that I have is I watched the first episode of Daredevil in the trailer.
Yep, that's my last thing. Okay. Daredevil, Firstborn? No.
Born Again.
Born Again. Yeah, Daredevil.
So you watched both episodes.
I did.
I'm watching the first one.
So, I'll try to avoid any sort of spoilers of that second episode. But spoilers for this episode, because within 5 minutes, there's a big thing that happens.
Yeah. So, do you remember pretty much everything that happened in the first 3 seasons? Did you watch like a YouTube thing? Because I went in blind. I was like, I didn't eat.
I know, Steve.
Pun intended.
Steve.
No. But yeah, I was like, I think, things will happen in this, and I'll probably just, from context clues, I'll get it.
It's not so deep, that you're not going to be able to remember things.
Because of all the Marvel TV shows, I think I've liked Daredevil the best. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to see him come back, and I think he's a good Daredevil. And if any show continues, I would want it to be this one. So what did you think of the first episode?
I enjoyed it. I dug it. I know people aren't happy because of spoilers. Foggy gets killed in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I even though, like, if you're gonna kind of reboot this, you want to keep the continuity, but you got to reboot it because they had a whole other series, I guess, and they shot a bunch of episodes and they looked at it and said, this sucks. Matt's not even in the Daredevil costume until episode 6 or something. Scrapping it all, starting over. And like, okay, cool. It's good when you realize maybe you're going in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they scrapped it all. This, especially with the second episode, it feels like, this is the show they wanted to do, but they needed to try to tie in some other stuff. So let's get this first episode out, because they initially said like, Karen Foggy not in it, no Punisher, no Bullseye. It's going to pretty much be Daredevil and Kingpin, and that's it, and we're doing a whole new thing. And people didn't like that. Well, it kind of is that. Like Karen goes away, so who knows if she comes back? Probably, maybe towards the end. But so maybe they retooled some of the later things, but I think they probably used a lot of that original script. But when it comes to Foggy dying, I'm not too upset. He was the good moral center for Daredevil, but you gotta shake things up. You're trying to do something different. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. And I think killing Foggy is great. I think they could have killed Karen instead, because Daredevil gets around. He's like the horniest dude in Marvel Comics. He just gets it on. Everybody likes fucking Daredevil. And we just saw a couple years ago, he hooked up with She-Hulk, Mm-hmm. So he's no stranger with love. So I could see them getting rid of her, but if they want him to be in love, you can't kill off his true love, and then that would kind of ruin him. So it makes sense. Kill off Foggy. He's not necessary. It's sad. I like the character, I like the actor, but I'm not heartbroken.
Yeah, my whole thing, I don't care too much about Foggy. I just wish... Is it cool that they did it as the opener? Yeah, because you're not expecting it. Mm-hmm. And it is a major character death, and you don't usually get those as the opener of the season. It does feel a little underhanded to go oh, hey, look, you got the whole team's back, and they're gone within the first 10 minutes of the episode. It's like, oh, well, maybe fans who are more into the show than I am, who really enjoy those characters, now they're disappointed because, like you said, I don't know if Karen comes back. Foggy's not coming back unless they do like a Elektra. What's the ooze from Batman? Right?
We're good with words. Lazarus Pit.
Jesus. Yeah, thank you. They do some bullshit with that.
Yeah.
Because they kind of did that with Elektra.
And there was like a dragon skeleton under New York for Defenders and stuff. They could do whatever.
Yeah.
Technically, Matt died in season 3, right? Or he died in Defenders and then came back for season 3. That's what it was. I
don't remember Defenders.
I think the whole city like collapsed on him, and then at the beginning of season 3 he was taken by the nun. I just remember him like clearing out his sinuses and like blowing out stuff. So like you could do it, and
that's when he was born again.
Yeah. and talking about like this, there's a character they introduced. Did they introduce the guy fighting the cops in episode 1? I can't remember. I watched them back to back. There was like cops beating up a guy, and then he goes to step in and accidentally kills one of them, and then finds out that they're cops. Maybe that was only episode 2.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, well they're talking about him, and he's like another vigilante called White Tiger, and he talks about like Matt's gonna defend him. He's like, he didn't have his suit on, he didn't have his magical amulet, and they just like breeze by it so fast. Like, wait, did you say magical amulet? Like, does it actually have magical powers? So we'll see. But hey, if they got magical amulets, they could probably bring Foggy back.
Yeah, I mean, who fucking knows?
Yeah.
But was it I enjoyed the opening sequence. It was fun. I mean, anytime you get, Daredevil going down hallways, it's a good time. And I like that he was like...
take, single shot. Like, you could tell that thing is stitched to high heaven with special effects.
It was fun seeing him do his Spider-Man routine going in. And
yeah, because he never used his baton as a transport nearly as much. And I want to see that.
And I like seeing Daredevil like take damage, so him getting stabbed everywhere was like super cool and just keeps going. I like how brutal he is in terms of like, because he is or comes from a boxing family. It really, like, every time he hits someone, it really feels like he's fucking hitting them.
And it feels like he's getting hit. Like they're climbing the stairs and they're both just leaning there like, all right, throw.
Yeah, I really enjoy the sort of more toned down. I say toned down. It's like, here's these guys who everything's like bright and colorful and fun, but they're fighting like Galactus. And here's a guy who's just a dude
taking knife after knife.
It's like, that's actually more brutal. And this is the toned down version. Yeah. But anyway, I don't remember really liking Bullseye. His actor was very it could have been anyone, and I would have been like, oh yeah, I guess that was the actor. I remember
really liking Bullseye in season 3. He was dressing up like Daredevil and doing bad shit. I don't know. I think he's a good foil for Daredevil.
No, sure. I mean, it's been a long time since I watched season 3. It's just, all I'm saying is I don't really remember him standing out to me. But as a villain, I like Bullseye. But we all know that Colin Farrell is the greatest Bullseye of all time.
You fucking know it. And then I love Matt's decision to just be like, fuck this guy, and just let him fall off the roof.
Yeah, awesome. Amazing. Just so nonchalantly, just whatever.
Yep.
And great stuff. I was a little annoyed that Bullseye was still alive after the fall.
Yeah.
I was like, come on,
it's
man.
I didn't remember, but I think he got a metal spine in season 3 of Daredevil. So it's like, oh, okay, he's a little more durable. But your ribs and your face, come on.
Yeah, land on your spine, I guess.
Yeah. It's fine. I don't care about that.
It's just, you just killed Foggy, and just kill him. But
they must have plans for him.
Yeah, or, Daredevil's racked with guilt because he tried to kill a person. And, it's his one rule, he doesn't kill. So I would have been more interested to see him actually just kill someone and then go through the trauma of that, even though it might have been justified because he did kill his best friend and just with his Christian faith and all that stuff. I don't know. Because I don't remember the first 3 seasons, I don't know how much of that is like really tackled, but I want to see the real Catholic Daredevil and tackle this in his, God and stuff. Because I think that's a character we don't see in comics, or at least in this Marvel universe, because no one's like, if Doctor Strange is doing magic, it's like, why the fuck would I believe in Jesus? But there is like, but in this universe, there could also be Mephisto, who is the devil. Like, why? I don't know. I think there's some fun stuff to do there.
I don't mind
from a character standpoint. I don't want to see Matt like take the cloth or whatever and just become Father Matt.
Yeah,
don't be wrong. But I just want to see him grapple with that.
I think why you let him survive, besides Kingpin hiring him to take him out later on.
But okay, well, you go.
I think it's more a look like I'm doing Daredevil stuff and I crossed the line and I killed him, but I had to. Oh, he survived. So even though I'm doing the thing I'm not supposed to do, he's still getting away with it. Like, I could have put it down. And so him giving up Daredevil and saying, let's go attack everything through the law, I think that helps him stay away from being Daredevil again. It's like, look, even when I cross a line, it wasn't the right thing to do, and it didn't do anything. So I have to just do it by the book. So I'm fine with Bullseye living.
I mean, we'll see. I could take it all back. It's just, I don't know. At least for me, and we've talked about on the pod, it's just like, no one fucking dies in these. And I know that's comics too. It's not just the MCU, but like, I want to have some permanence. Let there be real stakes because this character is not coming back. But I get it. Bullseye is, I guess, Daredevil's greatest villain.
He's his Joker,
other than the devil, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but that's a bigger villain.
He doesn't actually fight the devil.
Yeah, he can't tackle that. He tries to do that through his fate.
Daredevil season 5, Daredevil goes to hell and fights demons. Give me that show. And I'll check that shit out.
The devil sues Daredevil for copyright infringement, and then Matt Murdock has to defend it. Like, Matt Murdock gets hired by Mephisto to defend him, and then Daredevil's not coming to the stand, and then he has to hire Bullseye to be Daredevil.
Can I say though? I think after the opening sequence and you see him drop the helmet and then the helmet turns and then where his horn broke off and it has the D there, fantastic shot. Yep. Really cool. And then morphs into the credits. Good stuff. Wilson Fisk. This might be a controversial opinion. I don't really care about Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. Wow. I think he's solid. He looks the part. He's very kind of scary. I just don't like his voice.
No, I think he's top 5 villain casting for most comic book movies, I'd say.
Okay.
Or maybe I would say in Marvel, but
I'm not even really disagreeing with you, but I
love that voice.
I mean, I like that he was like a big mama baby boy or whatever. That gave that character more depth. Just every time he speaks, I'm like, you're talking too much, dude. I don't want to hear you speak too long.
No, he can monologue all day.
Ugh, all right.
I like what they're doing with him now. Were you? I mean, I won't say like, oh, were you confused because you didn't watch Echo? Because they did. I was wondering, are they going to just hand wave away Echo? Like, that never happened. Because in the Hawkeye show, he gets shot in the fucking face by Echo through the eye. We thought he was dead. And then he comes back in Echo. He's got an eye patch. He even has like a bionic eye so he can see her sign language and it translates for him. And he's trying to mentor her.
Just so everyone knows, I haven't seen any Echo stuff.
Yeah. So like when he said they were having their conversation, it's like, do you have any kids? No. What about you? Well, I tried to mentor someone, but that didn't work out. He's talking about Echo, shooting him in the face and everything. And then there's at the end of Echo, she had these magic powers where she was able to like heal trauma. I can't remember Echo. I remember there's like episode 1 is good and there's some good stuff in the middle, but most of Echo is just disappeared from me. But she was able to like reach into his mind and take all the trauma he ever had and delete it. And so he was like a good person now. And he's freaking out like, what the fuck did you do to me? You took away everything that made me me. And in Born Again, he's talking about, it's been a long road of recovery and a lot of self-reflection and stuff. And I think you're supposed to think it's him in the hospital recovering from the gunshot wound. But I think he also had to try to like reintegrate bad thoughts to make him the person he was. But it was a little hand wavy without being like completely disregarding it, and they never said like, I got a robot eye now or anything like that.
Yeah, because I didn't know he had a robot eye. I totally forgot about the Echo show.
And maybe it was a contact lens. You know, it could have been something like that, but so yeah, it was nice that they didn't completely disregard all that. You know, everything can still be in canon.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. He gets another love interest in this. Not Wilson Fisk. Daredevil.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's to come of that. I don't know if she.
there's the end of episode 2 is like, oh, isn't this an interesting revelation?
Oh, okay. Because I don't know if that character is from the comics or it's written for the show, and then just they're doing something interesting with it, like you said. I don't know what that is. But Matt being Matt, I haven't. Episode 1 doesn't have any White Tiger stuff, or maybe he's one of the guys at the table or something like that. I don't know. Because I don't know who White Tiger is. And what else happens in this episode? Yeah, Matt.
Oh, and goes on Fisk becomes mayor.
Fisk becomes mayor.
Yeah, he's got Gandolfini's son as like his youth outreach division or something.
That kid's gonna do some weird shit.
Oh yeah,
or maybe he's White Tiger. I don't know. I don't think
no, he's not. No. You see White Tiger. Don't worry. Oh, okay. That's not some big mystery.
Yeah. Which I thought like in another show, his campaign would have been a season-long thing, and it's just nope. At the beginning of this episode, I got out of prison or recovery or whatever. In this episode, I'm mayor again. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they probably could have. And same with like Foggy's death. You wait a couple episodes, make everybody fall in love with these characters, and then you kill them, and it's even more tragic. And then you see his campaign and how he was able to manipulate. But I think in this day and age, you don't have to really spell it out of how this like convicted criminal can like rise to that position. So it's like, y'all get it.
It's just such a fucking shame that is the reality of the thing, where like now this thing that we would have to write about because no one would believe that this guy would become mayor or president or whatever. It's like, no, we don't have to do that. Because it fucking happens.
It happened all the time in comics when it's like, oh yeah, Lex Luthor is president now. Like, how? Did they not see his giant robots trying to kill Superman for all those years? And then like, oh, no, it makes sense. It's just people are stupid.
He's got some good ideas, though. He's a real good businessman. I bet he could run this city even better.
Exactly. All those little like camera shots of, are you going to vote for him and stuff? Like, it made me upset just because hearing people do this and like, oh, it's so true to life. I don't like this at all.
But yeah, just so for our first episode, it was fun. It doesn't have me depressed like every other sort of Marvel stuff I've seen lately, where it's like it has potential, but it just doesn't get there, or I just don't care. So I hope nothing but the best for Matt Murdock and Daredevil in this season and seasons to come. And I know, from the trailer, he gets visited, or he visits the Punisher, so we're going to see John Barenthal again.
Eventually. There's some artist villain that's like white with the blood dripping out of his eyes. I don't know the character's name. He's a new villain in comics.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, I'd never heard of White Tiger before this. So yeah, we're getting a big slew of different things. So.
I hope it's all great stuff. But worst case scenario, this thing tanks. They'll throw him in a Spider-Man movie again, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
But good luck, Charlie Cox.
I saw a joke online of someone made about him talking about like, oh, well, have you been dating or anything? It's like, oh yeah, I met this lawyer named Jen Walters, and it's like she was green? What do you mean she was green? I knew she was big, but her skin was green too. Like, how was he to know? There were a couple times they did like a good use of camera work for his hearing.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Of just like expanding and contracting aspect ratios, and like sometimes they would do it and it wasn't even like the plot right then. It's just him walking on the street and you just kind of hear the chaos of the city and him trying to focus in on something, but there really is nothing there, and he keeps going. I really like that. But in episode 2, there's a part where he's fighting a guy and like he pins his arm and it does a reveal of a tattoo on his wrist. And it's like, okay, that's probably for us. But if they bring it up and say like, I noticed he had a tattoo because it smelled like tattoo ink or something. Like, I don't care how good your bat sonic.
I could smell the shape of it.
Exactly. Your sonic vision or whatever. Or actually, he sees it all on fire. You remember?
Yeah.
It's like you're not seeing details like that. So I hope that was just for us and not something he can figure out, because they had another one of those. It was like I can't remember. I wish I would have written it down, but it was just a funny little thing of, he knows everything and he's so smart and he's so good at everything.
I feel like for a show that, because I know he's not Batman, even though he's Batman-esque, but he can get information because he's a lawyer and, can figure out stuff within the law and, I got this name, I can look up the prison records or whatever. He's got access to the stuff. But like, if you just had one person who knew his identity and he just put some sort of camera in and then it's like, enhance. And then you can zoom in on that that tattoo or whatever. We can at least work with that.
Sure.
Because like, why wouldn't he have a camera in his thing, in his helmet, so then he can like give it to someone who can see and it's like, tell me all the details that I wouldn't be able to point out.
Yeah.
And then now he knows that, and we as an audience can go like, okay, here's a believable thing. But I agree. I can't wait. I really hope that they just go like, oh yeah, I smelled the shark tattoo.
Yeah.
God, that'd be so fucking shitty.
So do you think you will stick with it no matter what? Or it's like, if it's not where I want it to be by episode 5, I'm done?
Yeah. Do we know that it's 10 episodes?
I would assume.
Yeah.
Everything's 8 or 10 now.
I am always willing to jump ship if I believe the show is not good. But I think of all the Marvel stuff show-wise, this has the best chance of me finishing it. But I mean, I finished WandaVision and Loki season 1 and Hawkeye.
Wow, 2020, you haven't finished a show in 5 years.
I even finished Miss Marvel. Yeah. But I mean, I didn't watch Echo. I didn't watch Loki season 2. I didn't watch what's some of the other ones?
What If season 2 and 3?
What If season 2 and
Spider-Man?
3? Yeah, but
Secret
Wars. This has me hopeful.
Yeah.
But please don't break my heart. I can't take it anymore.
Isn't it crazy to think in like those original 3 seasons of Daredevil, 2 seasons of Punisher, 3 seasons of Jessica Jones, 2 seasons of Luke Cage.
There's 3 of Jessica Jones? I thought there was only 2.
No, I think there's 3.
Oh, right.
Defenders and 2 of Iron Fist. Like, that's a ton of stuff. And a lot of those seasons were long as shit. Remember, we'd always complain about there's too many episodes in this season.
Yeah.
But
they could have cut it down.
They could have, but it wasn't. They were always like 13 or something. Anyhow. All right. You want to get to our main topic?
Sure.
Bong Joon Ho's Mickey 17. Joon Ho's. Right?
Bong Joon Ho, yeah.
June, yeah. I was saying Jew. Like just J-U. Yeah, Bong Joon Ho's Mickey 17. Based on the book Mickey 7 by his first movie since Parasite that he won in, was that 2020? Or 2021?
2019.
It was a 2019 release, won it in 2020. Yeah.
I believe so.
So yeah, it's been a while since he's released anything. We've gotten like 3 seasons of Snowpiercer, the TV show. So yeah, Mickey 17 got pushed back. It was supposed to come out last year. Then it was supposed to be January. And it's just like, that made me nervous. I was like, oh, they don't have faith in it. They're re-editing it. It's kind of a failure. So they have to keep pushing it back. I don't know the actual reasons for why they pushed it back. But fun trailer that we just saw way too many times before things, and it's finally here. And I did not really care for this movie. It's not bad. Yeah. I would never say it's a bad movie. I think it's competently made. It's got really good acting, especially from Robert Pattinson. That guy has made some really fun career choices.
Yeah, everything I've seen, good or bad, it's all just been like, oh, at least Pattinson is great in this movie.
Yeah. And I think most everyone is good. I really love Bruce Banner and Toni Collette.
Mark Ruffalo.
It's like another sort of Trumpy, Elon-y, person of power, trying to start their own colony on a different planet. Like, we've seen this before, even though Bong Joon Ho said, like, it's not based on anybody. But it feels like he said, I know who I'm basing this off of.
Bong Joon Ho just hates capitalism.
Yes. But I feel a little misled by the trailers. But before we get into like other details, what did you think?
I liked it more than I disliked it. Okay. I think there is so much good stuff here that I really liked. From a production design standpoint, from a visual effects standpoint, from performances, direction, it's like all really well made and well put together. And even the story I didn't necessarily hate, but it just kind of like how it all kind of gelled together. I couldn't quite get into as much as I wanted to. I thought the first it was 40 minutes of all just sort of him doing exposition, narrating and exposition. Yeah. So the beginning, I didn't really care for all that much. And it was, I even looked because I always look when the movie starts because I'm always pissed off that it took nearly half an hour to start. And then because he kept going and going and going, when the title card came up of Mickey 17, I was like, let me check my phone. And it had been like 40 minutes. And I was like, wow, you don't really see titles in that far. But also, now the movie starts.
I still have an hour and a half.
Yeah. But once Pattinson number 2 came in, or Mickey 2 came in, I thought it was all that stuff was really, really fun. And liked them talking about the ramifications of multiples and telling the story of the killer. Like all that stuff is like really cool and like really helps you like why they don't want this thing to be a common thing. And it made me chuckle quite a few times. I think there is some solid comedy in here, but it's not really that funny.
No.
And I think this is where the biggest problem with this movie is that tonally it's weird. And I always have this problem with these like dark comedies where like there's a really good sci-fi action-y movie here, or there's like a really silly movie here that shouldn't look like this because of how well it's shot and made and visual effect. Like this isn't the kind of movie that looks like a comedy. And I want filmmakers to push boundaries and stuff and try new things, and I think this is kind of that. But at no point did this ever feel like a comedy. So whenever it was doing like jokey stuff, it just felt kind of like silly and out of place. And I know that might be kind of the point, but I just don't think it really worked for me. I think that there's potentially 2 really good movies here that they just mashed up and just made a kind of okay movie. That if it was like any other director's hands, it probably would have been like way worse. But I think by the end, I had a good time. I just there's just some choices I didn't necessarily agree with.
With the comedy stuff, the trailers made it seem kind of silly. Like, look how many of these we're printing and the wacky deaths that he's gonna do. And it was really upbeat. And like I expected us to get more of his deaths. Like they wasted 4 or 5 of them just to get the vaccine, which makes sense for the plot. But I thought we would see him. Oh, he's falling into a volcano and he gets electrocuted here. He eats this weird berry. Like you would have this fun montage of all these crazy things he did. And I didn't find it funny at all. And if it's like, well, it's not really a comedy, we'll talk to your trailer editors because they really made it seem like it was going to be a lot more fun.
That's just marketing.
Bad marketing.
Bad marketing to get something you're not expecting, but if it's good marketing to get you in the seats.
Sure, yeah, it's good for them because it gets people into theaters, but they're selling us a product that they're not delivering on.
Yes.
I was expecting something closer to like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Sure, okay.
Something a little off the wall, little goofy, has fun with the tropes of sci-fi, and I didn't get that. Maybe that's on me, but I just wasn't having fun throughout the movie. And then when the most comical aspect of him running into his freshly printed version of himself, what kind of wacky hijinks are they going to get into? You go to work and I stay home, but then I run into a coworker and we're having a conversation that I don't know what you're talking about because that was 17 and I'm 18. And like there's silly, goofy things that could happen of constantly trying to hide both of these people from everyone. And there's like none of that.
Yeah.
This movie really felt like it is a TV show that had a whole bunch of setups.
Yeah.
You know, you have the printing, the falling in love, you have the weird people in power and their weird religion and their rules set on everybody. You have crazy roly-poly walruses on the surface, and like all these things that are kind of like maybe 3-episode arcs through a 12-episode series. And it's like, okay, cool, we covered everything in the book, but you had to cram it all into one movie. And I think it's just the worst for that, because you don't get to sit with any of it. And like the translator for the monsters. Oh, how are we going to communicate? Oh, you got it. I got a translator for you. Boom, boom, boom. You made a couple of noises and we figured it out. It's like, not that I need huge arcs for that, but it just seemed like we're just moving it along just to get it moving along.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was so many points in this movie. It's like, oh, well, this has to be a bigger thing, because you have the Steven Yeun character who, like, what? Well, first of all, Steven Yeun is great in everything, even in the small role. I'm like, God, he's so fucking good.
Me and Nick were just talking about, like, if you would go back to like season 2 of Walking Dead and say who's going to be the breakout star of this entire show, you would not think Glenn.
Yeah. So shout out Steven Yeun. You're great. I love you. Do more stuff.
Yep.
That being said, his character was just like a jumping point for Mickey to get on this mission, and then he should have just like disappeared.
Yeah. Or got, his comeuppance with the loan shark.
Yeah.
They follow me here, boom, I'm dead.
You get a little bit of payoff at the end about that.
Sure.
But it just, here's this kind of dickhead friend, and you never really get a sense of why him and Steven Yeun's character are friends. Yeah. Like, they started a macaroon business, which I think was kind of fun.
Yeah. Macaroons are going to be bigger than hamburgers.
But yeah, you have this whole story of them with the loan shark and this guy's coming after him, and like that doesn't really ever equate to anything. And so you could have.
I did like the scene of like he's like eating dinner and they're gonna kill this guy in front of him, and like that's how he gets off. Is just like watching people die as he's eating. Like,
yeah,
oh, let's stay on Earth a little bit. I'm more interested in what's going on here.
And then you have the other love interest character. What was her point?
A character that, like, that's why it felt like a show. Like, this character was established at some earlier episode and she just pops in.
Yeah, she was going to be the character who like wants to be with one of the Mickeys. I like that argument. It's like, there's 2 of them. I want one. Yeah. You want one? Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I like there was the good idea of, oh, well, this girl, I forget her name, the main one.
Yeah. His girlfriend.
His girlfriend in the movie is just like, oh, well, she likes me because I'm Mickey, and she likes all the Mickeys. And I really like that idea, but I don't really explore it.
Yeah.
And then you have this other, quote unquote love interest come in, and you think, oh, this will pay off in some way. She's going to betray her. She's going to come in and save the day, even though that Mickey rejected her.
Sure.
Something. But it was just like, nope. As soon as they kind of decided, I'm not going to sleep with you, she kind of just mostly disappears in the background. So why introduce her at all?
Why introduce her at all? Unless like
that said, stunning. The whole movie I was like,
who are you? Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And that would have been a good way to, now you have these 2 Mickeys who are exactly the same and you separate them, and how do they start becoming a little bit different?
Yeah.
Because Mickey 18 is a prick, but we don't really know why. She does say like, okay, well, Mickey 3 was a little clingy and Mickey 4 was a little shy. Like there's little variations between them,
which I like, but we didn't see any.
But we don't see it, and they specifically talk about like, this copies you, all your memories down to everything. We better pop this zit or it's going to come back every time. It's going to be exactly the same. So why is he so different? If I would have really liked it. They said, look, we need you to be a little braver on this next one. So we're going to crank up the bravery a little bit. And so then you have one that is a little more heroic. And then, okay, we don't need you thinking too hard on this one, so let's lower the intelligence. And now you have a real dumb Mickey. Yeah. And you get to see, and now Robert Pattinson gets to act the shit out of it.
Yeah. And this should have been a James McAvoy split kind of scenario. Yes. It would have been like really fun. Or even if there was one scene where, there's so many soldiers. Mickey, how are you going to be able to defeat them? He's like, I got an idea. And then he jumps into the fucking printer. I mean, it takes like 20 hours, but it would have been fun. Like, what if he had like, I don't know, time, or maybe the printer thing pops him out in 5 seconds, whatever. But just like imagine an army of Mickeys who are like, let's go, and then there's just a bunch of Robert Pattinsons going around.
They're only going to last an hour because we had to express print them, but
that would have been very
they're
comical.
all goopy and stuff.
They're all like they're all really stupid.
And like when he was in the cave and Mickey 18 is printed, if that was because they were doing drugs and Mickey 17 hadn't done drugs yet, if he had been in the cave maybe like 3 weeks, okay, and so Mickey 18 has now been doing drugs for a while. Now we see why this one's so different. But he was only 20 hours, 21 hours late. Mm-hmm. And that Mickey is so different than who he is. I really didn't enjoy that because of the potential of what you could have done with it.
Yeah. I think I liked the idea of his relationship with his girlfriend, but I wish there was more to them. Because I never really felt like you understood why she liked Mickey so much, unless it was just like, I just like him because he's different than everybody else, which I can get behind.
Or he's kind of stupid, so I could feel smart, and he knows how to fuck, so I keep him around for that.
But yeah, I mean, their whole their love is kind of like the crux, the center point of the movie, and just like she makes him feel like he can do anything, and in this 4-year journey, she's the only thing that kept me going. And there was like one cute scene where they're drawing like how they're gonna fuck pictures, but
which does pay off later when he's doing the sign.
Why does that pay off of all the
things?
Of all the things.
I hated that so
much. But yeah, I just wish there was more with that.
You know what this movie was really lacking? Music. There's a lot of times where it's just silent and it's just dialogue, and it's supposed to be maybe a little funny, but they're having the dinner and he's going to put a bullet in Mickey's head and like, you can't do that. The rug is going to get damaged. That scene is silent. It's just talking. Yeah. And if there was a little kind of like silly tune going on in the background, you could maybe not yakety sax, but something to at least let you know like, hey, this is kind of a funny scene, because just on paper it's funny enough, but it didn't really make me laugh. And I think that's the whole purpose of music in movies, is to manipulate you to feel a certain way. Yeah. How many scary movies, if you watched without sound, would be nothing? Jump scares would be stupid. It's all about building tension or making you feel happy or sad. And this just didn't have any of that, whereas the trailers are filled with fun music. And it just felt like, oops, we forgot some tracks in here when we sent the hard drives to the theaters.
And I think that, well, one thing I want to say is they kept, showing shots of them talking about like, this is your brain, this brick thing. Like, you do it. He says, I go once a week to just, upload new memories or whatever. So every time, so I'm not too far gone if I die. Yeah. I thought there was going to be something with that. Like if they're trading places, like, and dying and coming back and working, and half the time they're with her, half the time they're working, and they decide like, this is how we're going to survive because we can trade off. Like, what happens when this one has 2 weeks, a 2-week gap or whatever, or a month gap? Because, well, he's only printed like, I mean, I guess they could trade off.
But it's like, but is it only one of their brains, or is it downloading both the information?
Yeah, does that jumble things? Yeah. Or is there not enough memories and stuff? Because now, like, oh, let's say 18 died, and now 20 comes out. And 20's not a dick anymore, but he has them. Like, I just don't know how that works.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just sci-fi mumbo jumbo that you don't care about. But I think that you could keep all this stuff if you just made me like, I'll accept all the bad stuff if, like, I really liked 17 and 18's relationship, and 18 made 17 a little bit braver, and 17 made 18 a little bit less of a dick.
Yeah,
but they always just kind of stayed who they were. I mean, they were only both alive for
2 days,
a couple days, whatever it was. So I guess like, how much are you really going to change? But like that scene where 18 like goes and fights Mark Ruffalo, and he's on the thing, and he sacrifices himself. That should have been like a really, if there's one emotional point in the movie, it should have been that one.
Yep.
But I felt nothing because he was a terrible person.
Yep, he's a bad dude.
I mean, I guess not the worst dude, but he came out in that same day. He's like, let's commit murder.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa. So I just wish that anyone had like a relationship I could get behind, or you had characters who you introduce, do something interesting for the story.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't a lot of that. So I mean, I think Bong Joon Ho has made 10 films. I think I've seen 7 of them. I haven't seen Mother, his first one, Barking Dogs Never Stop or something like that. I forget what it's called. And fuck, what was that other one? Shit. I haven't seen 3 of them. Okay. I don't remember what the third one is, but I've liked all of his stuff. And for the most part, I still like this one, but definitely lower tier Bong Joon Ho movies.
For sure.
Especially after Parasite and Snowpiercer. Like, both movies I really fucking love. Okja, I liked. It's more in this vein. Like, Mickey 17 and Okja are kind of in the same realm.
Okja made me feel things. This didn't.
It's awful when you kill cute, adorable, giant hippo pigs or whatever. That being said, these little creatures were gross, but man, when she pulled out his little penis and cut it up into pieces, I felt really bad. Yeah. That made me feel icky. Like, I'm watching animal abuse, and I just was introduced to this thing.
Yeah.
And for all I know, these are evil creatures. Actually, I guess at that point we'd learned that they're not evil, but yeah, just her and just putting it on the hook, all that animal cruelty stuff, I did not care for. They made you care about these bugs quick.
Yeah.
And I guess it's easy to like them and hate the Trump representative of the movie. And Trump. I don't know how to call him Trump. Mark Ruffalo's, I guess, the head of the church behind him, like whispering in his ear, like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna shoot this video of you. It's gonna look great." Like, what's this fucking dude doing here? Like, that should have been another interesting character, and then, that just is like there to push Mark Ruffalo's character to do kind of shitty things, but like, what's his deal?
I know.
And I guess the idea is just like, hey, man, religious people and how they whisper in people in power's ear. Like, that's an interesting idea that doesn't go anywhere.
And same with, like, in that scene, you have a guy like whispering to Mickey's girlfriend. I feel bad not knowing her name.
I'm gonna look it up.
And just like, hey, in case you want to know, we're about to do a revolution right now. So, you know, play along. Like, who are these guys? When like, having Mark Ruffalo saying, hey, we don't want you guys to have sex because you have a specific caloric intake and you burn too much. We need you to be able to work. And we're seeing these people passing out doing their jobs because, hey, I got a girlfriend at home and we like to bang, and then them getting in trouble for that. Look, we said no sex. And then you had this revolution and, you know, building up. They're not feeding us. They're not letting us fuck. We don't know what's going on. But it just comes out of nowhere. And like, everything just has to kind of happen all at once at the end. And it feels really, really messy. It's scatterbrained.
Nasha is her name.
Yeah. Not a sexy name, you know. It sounds like nausea, you know.
Yeah.
And not Nash. Yeah. Anyhow, but I like her. She was in Blink Twice, and she's really good in that. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, no problem with actors in this movie at all.
They all kill it.
Yeah. Just wish their characters, I wish most of them mattered more or didn't exist.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean,
at first when I got home, I gave it a D+, and I thought, is that too rough?
Harsh.
So I gave it a C-.
Yeah.
So at least like Snowpiercer was grim and dark and you had snowy things, but you go into the next car and it's a kid's classroom and it's bright and colorful. Like, there's character with every train car, and I didn't feel like any character in the building we were in. It just felt so blah.
Yeah, it was kind of just his room, corridor, cafeteria,
burning room,
and Mark Ruffalo's room. It was like 5-6 rooms. It felt like
snowy cave, you know, or snowy plain.
You didn't really get a big sense of like space and stuff like that.
And it's like, it's going to take us 4.5 years to get there. We're here. Like, oh, I kind of, you know, you see some of the stuff on the trip of people going a little stir crazy, and the seeds of revolution are starting to be planted, you know, and this is when you build up to when you finally get here, everything explodes. But no, it's just like, now we got to get to the planet because that's where the roly-poly walruses are. So
yeah. And do they say in the movie like why they picked? Was it just the closest planet?
I don't know.
An inhabitable planet? Did they know that these roly-poly things were here? Because they landed, and I guess they didn't know that they were here because they were like, "Get me one of those things. We need to do science on it or whatever." But like when they land, it's like, oh, we made it to the Great White Planet. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, so is this Hoth? Like, can you actually live here?
Yeah.
But then
are we
spring
just
came
here
at the end, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's still cold. But
they were just there at wintertime.
Yeah, they were just there at wintertime.
Yeah, and then it's like,
but like you didn't see trees or what.
But
you don't know what these roly-poly things eat.
They may be the only
creepers.
Thing,
I guess I should call. Yeah, that's the name.
Which I hate that name. They're not creepers. They're like, that's a spidery thing that gets on its little spindly legs. They creep around. These are roly-poly walruses. Think of a more fun name.
Do you want to? So I don't know if you know this. There is a sequel to this book.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And you want to know a secret?
What's that?
The roly-polies do have a arch nemesis.
Oh.
And they're spiders.
Oh, okay.
So spoilers for anyone who reads, I forget the title. It's not Mickey 18
because the book is Mickey 7.
The book is Mickey 7, yeah. But then they destroy the machine or whatever at the end of this movie.
So you can't do that.
Yeah, anymore. He doesn't like come back in the second one. Like he's not.
That's not.
He's not reprinting himself.
Yeah.
It's him having to go live a life where he can die. That's kind of the thing of it.
Is there just the 2 books, or is it a
as
whole
far
series?
as I know, it's just the 2 books, and I think the second book came out like 2023 or something, or like really recently.
Okay.
I don't know if it's any good. I don't know if it's. I don't know if this book is accurate to, other than having 10 more
adding
deaths.
More deaths. Yeah.
I don't know how accurate it is to the story. But maybe the book expands on these characters, or is a little bit more. But I don't know. I want to give it. I think I'll give it a C+, I guess. Maybe a
C+-.
No, I was gonna say, like, I really want to give it a B-, but I know I'll probably never watch this movie again. I think it deserves to be in that realm, but I'll give it a C+.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see. Next week, big week, lots of stuff coming out. We'll see what we actually get to. We have The Electric State on Netflix. Heard bad things. Maybe it'll be an absolute disaster. Black Bag, another Soderbergh film. Always interested in what he does. He's a very good director.
Yeah. That really does the same thing twice.
Yeah, but it's
except for Magic Mike, I guess.
And Oceans,
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, look at his IMDb, and you're like, oh, he did that movie? Oh, I didn't know he worked. It's like, this dude just cranks out movies. We have Novocaine, which, do you like Jack Quaid?
Sure. Well, it's not like I see Jack Quaid, I'm like, oh, yeah, Jack Quaid's in this. It's just I have nothing against Jack Quaid.
Because, like, talking with my roommate and Nick, they're both like, I don't really like Jack Quaid. I don't know. It's like, I kind of really like Jack Quaid. He just seems like a fun dude that like knows he's a Nepo baby, and he's going to use it to his full extent, but not to be a complete prick. But it's like, okay, you mean I get a chance to go do all these things? Well, of course I'm going to take that chance. Yeah. So I don't know. He seems like a fun guy.
And he's got such a nice boy face.
Yeah.
Like
a great nice boy face to end up being the piece of shit in the movie, like in Companion.
Yeah, which makes Companion fun.
So much better.
But also as a dweeb on The Boys, he's really fun. I just think, he's the kind of guy who, like, you can't really be mad at him because he just seems like the nicest guy ever.
Yeah. And then Looney Tunes presents The Day the Earth Blew Up, starring Porky Pig and Daffy Duck trying to save the world. And I like Warner Brothers characters, and so I'm going to support it. That's a lot of movies to see, and I got to see In the Lost Land still, so it's going to be a very, very busy week. And then we'll also talk about Invincible. Invincible will come to an end, and we'll wrap up all that.
After episode 7 we just had?
7
we just had. Ben and I really want to talk about it.
We got lots to say.
It was quite the episode, but we'll give it another week because I know there's some good stuff coming in episode 8. So.
All right. Well, if you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And keep consuming.